The war had ended 23 years ago, but Harold Trenn still felt it in his bones. Not in scars or medals, those were buried with his past, but in the way people looked at him when they thought he wasn't looking, like an antique, a forgotten weapon in a glass case. He liked it that way. EOS Station 12 wasn't much, just a metal ring around a cold moon, orbiting a nameless gas giant. It housed a fueling port, a post office, 3 drunkards and 1 bar. Harold ran the grill. People passed through, left, and never looked back. That suited him fine. Then, one cycle ago, it walked in. At first, he thought it was wearing a suit, some exo-armor or environmental gear, but the shape wasn't quite right, too long in the torso, limbs slightly off angle, skin like coiled obsidian under thin mottled cloth. It didn't speak, just stood there, framed by the rattling doorway, until Harold finally grunted, "You gonna sit or stare all night?" It sat at booth 7, the one near the air recycler, always slightly too cold. Harold made a plate without asking. Old instinct, fried grain cakes, protein slivers, pickled green root. He slid it across the counter. The alien didn't move at first, then with slow grace it lowered its head in what might have been a bow, and ate, clean mechanical movements, efficient, almost reverent. It came back the next night, and the next, always alone, always silent, always booth 7. Harold stopped charging after the 3rd visit, didn't say why, just poured a mug of water, distilled clean, and placed it with the food. The creature drank it last, cradling the cup like it was sacred. On the 5th night, Harold sat down across from it. "You know," he said, "you've got the kind of silence that makes a room colder." No answer. Just that strange head turning slightly, as if calculating his meaning. Harold scratched his chin. "Well, you don't smell like trouble. That's more than I can say for half the people who come through here." He stood, started to walk away. Then a voice, like distant thunder, laced with static and ancient echo, filled the space between them. "You are the first in 200 suns to offer me food." Harold froze. What now?" The creature looked up. Its eyes, not 1 but 4, narrow and deep-set, shimmered faintly. "Where I walked before, they called me beast, monster, ghost." There was no pride in the voice, no drama, just the hollow weight of truth. Harold exhaled slowly. "You hungry? You eat. That's all that matters to me." A pause. Then the creature said, "I do not understand this kindness." Harold shrugged. "Then you haven't lived long enough, friend." The alien tilted its head. That strange stillness returned. Then, "I have lived longer than your sun has burned." Harold blinked, then laughed once, short, dry. "Well, that's going to make my stew taste underwhelming." The alien didn't laugh, but something in the angle of its shoulders shifted, loosened, as if a weight had moved. It finished its meal in silence. As it stood to leave, it turned one last time. "You fed me when I had no name. I will not forget." Then it vanished into the humming corridor. Harold sat back at the table and stared at the empty plate. He didn't know what he'd just done. But he had the feeling the galaxy was about to change because of it. The stranger didn't return the next day, or the next. Harold tried not to notice. He kept flipping grain cakes, cleaning the same bar stool twice, pretending the air recycler near booth 7 wasn't hissing louder than usual. But he did notice. 3 cycles later, a shuttle docked. No call sign, no clearance beacon, just a long black vessel gliding into Bay 2 like a ghost ship, the kind that meant trouble. They came in fast, 5 of them, armed and armored, not like pirates, not like soldiers. Too disciplined for one, too brutal for the other. Hunters, The bar emptied within seconds. Harold didn't flinch. He'd seen this look before, long ago, in the outer trenches during the Black Moon siege. The walk of those who'd tracked things not meant to be tracked. They didn't sit, just stood in a half circle around him. Their leader removed his helmet. Human, clean-shaven, cold blue eyes. "We're looking for something," he said calmly. "It might have come through here. Might have sat. Might have eaten." Harold scratched his beard. "You want a menu?" A twitch at the corner of the hunter's mouth. Not quite a smile. "This thing doesn't eat," he said. "It consumes. It devours ships. It's killed entire squads. It's a Class 7 predator, ancient class. Dangerous enough to get you and this whole rust bucket burned to ash if you've seen it and don't tell us." Harold blinked. "Doesn't sound like someone who'd enjoy my stew." The hunter stepped closer. "We call it Drethkar. In your tongue, the silent maw. Most don't live long enough to call it anything at all." Harold met his eyes. "Never heard of it." The hunter stared, measured, then slowly nodded. "Be sure to forget it if it comes back." They left. No shots fired, just tension, thick and lingering like spilled oil. That night, Harold didn't close the bar. He just sat at booth 7 and waited. Old habits, he guessed. Hours passed. Then a shape stepped out of the dark. Silent. Massive. The alien. But this time, its shoulders were squared, its movement sharper, heavier, not hiding anymore. Harold stood. "You've got a hell of a bounty on you, friend." The creature inclined its head. "I know. They said you're a predator." "I am. They said you're a killer." Silence. Then, "I was." Harold looked down at the booth's table. "So why here? Why eat? Why talk to me?" The creature's voice was low, softer now. "Because you fed me without fear, without price. My kind does not forget such things." Harold sat back down. His knees weren't what they used to be. "So, what now?" The creature turned, looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. "They follow. They always do. You are in danger." Harold shrugged. "Been in danger before. Doesn't mean I stop feeding folks." The alien didn't respond, just stared into the black. Then, "Harold Tren, you have earned my oath. From this moment, none shall harm you while I exist." Harold chuckled. "Sounds like you just made me a bigger target." The creature's mouth curled in a way that might have been a smile. "Then let them come." And for the first time in years, Harold felt something he thought he'd buried long ago. He felt safe. The hunters returned 2 nights later. No warnings, no questions. Just a low-pitched shriek through the hull and the thunder of boots in the corridor. Harold had been cleaning the counter. He didn't flinch when the door exploded inward, spraying metal shards into the far wall. His hearing cut out in one ear. His knees buckled, but he stayed standing. There were 7 this time, not 5. The lead hunter's face was burned. Half of it anyway. He wasn't smiling anymore. "You lied to us, old man," he growled, raising his pulse rifle. "The maw was here." Harold didn't reply, just wiped his hands on a towel. His eyes flicked to booth 7. Empty. "You fed it, protected it. Why?" the hunter demanded. Harold finally spoke, his voice gravel and steel. "Because it was starving, and because I've seen real monsters. You don't know the difference." The hunter stepped forward, rifle aimed. "Where is it now?" That's when the lights died. Not flickered. Died. EOS Station 12 plunged into absolute blackness. Even the emergency backup flickered uselessly. The hum of the oxygen vents cut. A silence deeper than vacuum filled the bar. Then something moved. The hunters spun, weapons drawn. Too slow. From the dark, a shape flowed, impossibly fast, impossibly large. One of the hunters screamed as he was lifted from the floor and slammed into the ceiling hard enough to leave blood and bone embedded in the metal. A pulse rifle fired wildly, sparks arced, another scream, then nothing, only the slow, heavy thud of breathing. The lights snapped back on. Only Harold and one hunter remained, the leader, bleeding, pale, and Drethka, towering, dark and terrible, stood behind him, one massive claw around his throat. Harold looked into its eyes, and for the first time, he wasn't sure he recognized the creature. Its expression was blank, cold, not rage, not revenge, just execution, a force of nature responding to harm. "Don't," Harold said quietly. Drethka didn't move. "Don't kill him," Harold repeated, voice shaking. The creature's gaze flicked to him. The hand around the hunter's neck trembled. Then, with a hiss, it dropped the man to the floor. The hunter gasped, crawling back. His eyes darted between them like a wounded animal. "You protect that thing?" he spat. Harold knelt beside him. "That thing has shown me more honor than any uniform ever did." The hunter's mouth worked, but no words came. Harold looked up at Drethka. "I don't want blood," he said. "Just peace." The predator bowed its head, then turned and left, silent as always. Later, Harold sat alone in the bar, picking glass from his hands. Booth 7 was untouched. A shadow moved at the door. "I didn't want you to kill them," Harold murmured without turning. "I know," Drethka answered, "but they would have killed you. I've been ready for that a long time." A pause, then, "I have not." Harold looked up. "What do you mean?" Drethka stepped forward, more hesitant than usual. "You gave me something none of my kind has known since the star silence began." "Which is?" "A reason not to kill." Harold didn't speak for a long time. Then, "And what'll you do now?" The predator looked toward the stars beyond the viewport. "Stay, until no one comes to hurt you again." And somehow Harold knew there would always be someone. But now, he wouldn't face them alone. 6 months had passed since that night. EOS Station 12, once forgotten, rusting, drifting at the edge of mapped space, had become a name whispered across systems, not because of what it was, but because of who was there and who stood with him. Harold Tren, the old barkeep, and the creature once known only as Drethka, the Maw, the Silent One, the living extinction, now known by a new name, Guardian. It started with a skirmish, a corporate strike team trying to recover the bounty placed on Drethka's head by the Berillian clans. They came in fast, 12 armed ships cloaked with nanite disruptors. They never made it past the outer ring. No one died, but every weapon, every engine, every AI-guided missile stopped, as if the void itself had turned against them. And then they saw it. Him, standing on the hull of EOS 12, unsuited, unblinking, watching. The footage went viral. Entire civilizations watched as the deadliest hunter in the galaxy refused to kill because Harold had asked him not to. It wasn't weakness, it was control. Power, restrained, not by chains, but by kindness. "Why haven't you left?" Harold asked him one night, pouring out 2 glasses of sawmelon brew, one for himself, one for the creature that had never once drank it. Drethka sat in silence, then finally spoke. "Because I have no one else." Harold nodded. "That makes 2 of us." They sat in silence, watching the stars move beyond the scratched viewport. The galactic press started calling it the Pact. Alien leaders came seeking alliances, scientists came to study the predator, children wrote letters, some even drew crayon pictures of the big space friend who protects Mr. Harold. And slowly, EOS Station 12 became a symbol of mercy, of change, of what happens when you choose compassion instead of fear. But Harold didn't care about any of that. He only cared that, for the first time in his life, someone stayed. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. The last time anyone tried to harm him was the Syndicate, a shadow group, old and vengeful. They sent a biological weapon, something meant to kill without being seen, but it never reached the station. Drethkar met it in the silence of space, tore it apart, and scattered its code into a black hole. When he returned, bloodied, quiet, Harold only asked one thing. Did you have to kill it? No. Then why did you fight? Because it threatened you. And that's how the galaxy came to learn the new truth. The deadliest predator in the stars is not alone. He has a home now, a family, a single old man who once offered him food, and in return gained a guardian whose wrath could tear suns apart. Not for vengeance, not for conquest, but for kinship. And that was a kind of power the galaxy had forgotten, until now.